What's up, you guys? Sean Ross Sapp here for the official Wrestling Inc. podcast alongside my co-host Vince Russo and, of course, the Wrestling Inc. founder Raj Giri. We knew going into this Monday Night Raw that we were going to see a lot of different directions as several guys just didn't have programs going into this show. Ended on a very hot note with one of the great Raw matches of this year. Vince, what was your opinion on this show?
Well, I'll be honest with you, Sean. I thought that going into this week, I thought that this was a very, very, very important Raw. And I'll tell you what, they kind of dodged the bullet because the World Series is not going to fall on a Monday night. It was an off night tonight. And even if they play it out, I think by my calculations, there's not going to be a World Series on a Monday night. So I thought tonight was vital because all there was Monday Night Football. There was no World Series. There was no baseball game. And, I thought that they really, really had to step it up tonight. And I mean really go, pardon my expression, balls to the wall. And the mistake, I think, was made, and I've talked about this, in the weeks that passed, was, they gave us, almost like a 90% wrestling show. And, I've said this all along. The wrestling fans are watching. If you're a genuine wrestling fan, you're watching the product. So this was a situation where I really felt they had to go outside of that box. Hopefully the Monday night television viewers, they weren't watching a World Series tonight. So coming off of that pay-per-view, I was really looking for a little bit of everything. I thought they had to have a tremendous show tonight. And, outside of the Wyatt segment, the entire show was wrestling. And I don't know if that's going to, draw the people that haven't been watching the show, quite honestly.
Raj?
I agree with that. I thought it was as far as the booking went, it was by the numbers, but with a lot of good matches. There was, pretty much up and down the show, you had a lot of good matches, but, it didn't have that, like a post pay-per-view show. And, Hell in a Cell, on our site, we got a lot of feedback and as far as, traffic and everything goes, it was close to one of the bigger ones, like a SummerSlam. So there was a lot of interest in it. And I thought, as far as storylines and stuff go, it was pretty much by the numbers, but the wrestling was good enough that, I thought it was a good show.
I think they have some room to grow out of this too, because even though we have the world title program, that's Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns, but as we've mentioned, there's no program for the U.S. title set right now, or the Intercontinental title, or really Dolph Ziggler, or New Day. There are a lot of guys that still have to have programs that need to get going. But this show was about the WWE World Heavyweight title, and I really liked that. And in the ring, the show was fantastic. I thought it was really, really good, especially that main event. I can't say enough good things about that. At this point, if you're using in-ring work as an excuse to dislike Roman Reigns, which a lot of the fans do, I don't know what you've been watching because he has improved dramatically. But we'll start out the show from the beginning. We had the Rollins Triple H segment, which led to the Roman Reigns Kofi Kingston match. Still no Xavier Woods. He's getting married, so he's off TV for a little bit. Roman Reigns won a very good match. I think we all saw this coming. Vince, your opinions on Roman Reigns as a character, a wrestler, things of that nature?
Guys, I've always been a big Reigns fan, man. I have. I've always liked Roman Reigns from the start. Hopefully now they got him back to exactly where he was supposed to be when he took that detour at the Royal Rumble. That was not on him. That was 100% on creative. I've always liked this guy. I felt with this first match, Sean, now, I understand they needed time, but I really felt like in trying to get that time and in trying to stretch this match, I felt they had Reigns, selling a little bit too much to Kofi Kingston. I mean, if it was somebody else, I don't think I would have minded, but I think, again, to get time out of the match, I think he just sold way, way too much in the match. And, again, that's an agent issue, and then them laying out the match. It's not a talent issue, but I just want to throw this out there too. Is tonight was set up in that opening segment, Sean, of everybody that won a match last night were going to be in individual matches, and it was going to end in a Final Four. Correct?
Yes.
Didn't Brock Lesnar win his match last night?
Yes.
That was kind of the biggest match.
Well, that was a big omission. I have to hope. I mean, I really have to hope that Lesnar's going to show up next week, and basically Heyman's going to state that case, and then there's going to be a Reigns-Lesnar match. Because if not, man, I don't know how the WWE can just, expect its fans to, forget that, very big hole in the story if they don't fix it.
Well, I think they just kind of don't count Lesnar, because I think Lesnar is out until the Royal Rumble. So I think he's pretty much off TV for the rest of the year.
I think they should explain that, though. They should maybe have Heyman show up and give a reason and say that Brock Lesnar takes his title shots when he wants them, something of that nature. I think they do need to explain it, since they said that the winners would be in this tournament.
Right. I think they just kind of assume that everyone knows that Lesnar wouldn't be in this kind of a thing.
Yeah.
But, I thought I agree with Vince. He did give Kofi a lot. I wasn't expecting it to be so competitive, but it was a really good match. To your point, anyone that doesn't say that Roman has improved greatly over the past couple of years is just blind hating at this point. The problem with Roman is his promos aren't convincing. And when he's cutting that promo in the beginning and one thing that bothered me was having him come out and getting in Seth Rollins' face to start the show. That pretty much gave away the whole night. Like, why not throw a red herring in there? Why not have Kevin Owens come out and do that? And you start off with the Kevin Owens match, and then that way it kind of throws something out there. Like, wait, are they going to have Kevin Owens win? And then you can still do Roman, but right off the bat, you knew who was going to win. So it was kind of like 3 hours of good matches with knowing the outcome. And by the time you got to the Final Four, you knew that there was only one possible winner. And, his promos, man, it's just like you just don't believe. It's like him, Charlotte also on the show, that just don't believe what they're saying, and they just sound like they're reciting it. And that's the big difference with like a Bray Wyatt. Can
I ask you guys this question? I agree with you 100%, no doubt about it. But do you think part of that is coming from, like, management and, the writers or producers or Vince or whoever it is, not having that confidence in, like you said, people like Reigns and people like Charlotte, not really having that confidence in them that they can go out and cut their promo? Because sometimes if you don't have the confidence in the talent, mentally, like, that will screw your mind, where, like, you're just so scared to death of saying the wrong thing. And every time I see Reigns in that promo situation, I feel like, he's in defensive mode. Like, rather than, just cut the promo and say what's in his heart and show us emotion and show us passion, it comes across like he's afraid to make a mistake. So, like, that's why when I watch him, I just wonder how much is that mental compared to he doesn't have the ability to pull it off? Because let's not forget the guy's heritage. He's from, a family of wrestlers. I mean, this has been in this kid's blood since he was a kid. I would think that he should be able to go out there and do it. But I don't know how much they might have gotten into his head.
And I agree 100%. And that's, like, it's definitely not one of those things that I don't think Roman can't do it, because I've seen him, in interviews and stuff where he's, really engaging and really interesting to listen to. I just think in this current scripted character that he has, he doesn't know what to say. He just says his scripted lines. He doesn't really know how to deliver them. It's just doesn't seem like it's him. And that's where I think taking a little time with them, turning him heel, he'd be a top heel. They're so they have so few. Letting him find himself a bit and let him, work on his character and find, and I think it's easier to experiment with that kind of stuff as a heel, where you don't have the pressure to, to worry about the fans booing you and things like that. And I think that would do him a lot of good.
Yeah, I remember years ago I was looking through the Anoa'i family tree on Wikipedia, and this was like maybe years ago when Roman Reigns was playing college football, but he already had an entry, and I remember seeing his picture and his size, and I was like, that sounds like a kind of guy that WWE would be interested in. As it turns out, he was, because, Vince mentioned his heritage, but he has to keep things like his speaking situation short and sweet unless he has somebody to talk for him, because of the scripted nature. Raj, who would you put with Roman Reigns if you had to put a manager with him?
Really, there's only one person. Paul Heyman's probably the only one that really fits. But
I thought that was going to be the direction at WrestleMania too. I thought they were going to go that way.
Yeah, but you get him with Heyman, then you could end up with a Lesnar situation where he never learns to cut a promo. So
that's true. That's true. Moving on, we had the next match in the tournament. Cesaro taking on Kevin Owens, and Cesaro got beat by the one guy that at least a giant portion of the internet fans weren't going to complain about beating him. Pretty good match. Not much to talk about here. Cesaro was over. The crowd was fantastic tonight. Kevin Owens moved on to the main event. Vince, what are your feelings on Cesaro and Owens, how they're used, and their usage tonight?
Well, I felt, to go one step beyond what Rod said earlier about, Reigns was in the first promo, so they kind of set the stage. My God, it's like every one of the four matches was just so predictable. And I'm a little different from you, I think especially Sean, because I'm not really into the in-ring work, and that's because, I was trained in my job, that was the agent's work, that was on the wrestlers. My job was to be creative, and, so that's what I'm always looking at. So, I'm not, I don't really, the last match I thought was incredible, off the charts, no doubt about it, but I don't really look at the match. And, all four of these matches, no matter how good the match was, you knew who was going to win every match. It was so predictable by the time we got to the end that they had me convinced that Ambrose was going to come out and screw Reigns, because I was they can't, everything can't be this predictable. And I thought because they were setting us up for a swerve. But one thing bothers me. I got to ask you guys about this. When I was there, and way before me and way after me, everybody had a nickname. Bret Hart was the excellence of execution, and Michaels was the Heartbreak Kid, et cetera, et cetera. They're putting labels on these guys, and the announcers are trying to force them down our throat.
Yeah.
And I don't think some of these labels work. All of a sudden, if you notice, Seth Rollins is the architect. That's not how Seth Rollins wrestles. Bret Hart was an architect. Bret Hart was a technician. That moniker went with his style. And it's the same thing. JBL is shoving that, Kevin Owens is a prize fighter. I don't know what that has to do with his character every time I see him. He does nothing like that a prize fighter would do.
Yeah, he leaves his matches. And as I've mentioned, a prize fighter would never leave their match because they don't get their win bonus if they don't win the damn match.
Am I nitpicking, or what they want us to believe these guys are? It just doesn't seem to be fitting up.
When it comes down to it, I think it's that 50-50 booking where nobody can be dominant in the WWE except for maybe one or two guys. They need some more guys to be dominant. They had Rusev at that point earlier in this year, and now he's in a 6-man tag in a loser's consolation match on Raw, and thank God they won, but you have to have some streaks of dominance, and maybe Del Rio will get that. I don't know. We'll talk about that in a moment. But it is really weird. In general, it's like what I've always said. If Michael Cole and JBL are screaming it repeatedly, it's not cool. And nobody wants to. They're not the cool hip guys. It's just not the way it works.
Yeah, I think there is. I mean, back to Vince's point, I think there is a disconnect between trying to get terms over that they think that the writers think are cool, but the audience isn't buying. You don't hear anybody referring to Rollins as the architect, and so none of that stuff is catching on. And part of that just because of what Vince said. There's nothing that they do to earn that nickname.
Did you see the table for three of Cesaro talking about that nickname?
No. I did see that. I don't remember that.
Cesaro said that he was riding with Seth Rollins down the road.
Oh, right.
And Ambrose and Reigns, they passed them, and they ran out of gas, and they just passed Roman Reigns and Dean Ambrose, and Cesaro was like, well, I guess you were the architect of the Shield.
No.
But
one thing with Owens, Vince, I don't know if you watched much of him when he was in NXT, but he looked like he was getting in much better shape in NXT, and that seems to be being undone. He seems to be kind of getting out of shape.
Yeah. I mean, listen, if I say anything about Owens, everybody kills me. So, I got to be real careful what I say about Owens.
I can't wait to make the headline say Vince Russo says Kevin Owens is fat. I will say one thing
positive about him. To be honest with you, that I'm starting to enjoy more with his character. He is really starting to become a lot more animated in the ring. And I like that because that's entertaining. He's talking. He's, when he's selling, he's verbally selling. I mean, he had a little exchange with Michael Cole today, and Michael Cole kind of buried him. But I do like the fact, I mean, he definitely is being a little more animated, but I guess that's where I'm getting so confused with, he's the chicken shit heel and he's animated and he's running like a Double J or a honky tonk man would. And then in the next breath, the guy's a prize fighter. It's just very, very confusing to me.
Owens has not scratched the surface on his range. I got to see him at the Arnold Sports Festival matches in Columbus this year, and he was hilarious on those shows. He cut a promo on every bodybuilder at the expo saying that he would put them to shame if he took his shirt off and all this stuff. He was hilarious in a lot of the stuff he did with the Young Bucks on the independent circuit, where he would try to do the moves that they did, like do cartwheels and flips and then all that stuff. He has a lot of range, and I don't think he's been able to show that. And to Raj's point, I think he has gotten a little more out of shape. Maybe a lot of that has to do with the fact that he's on the road a lot more now than he was in NXT, because they just toured around Florida generally when he was there. And as we know, the road can affect you pretty badly. But either way, Owens won this match. We'll move on to the Divas segment, a painful segment to watch backstage with Charlotte, Becky Lynch, and Paige. Charlotte is really not a good actor at all. This led to PCB versus the Bellas. The Bellas won.
And not even that. They made them look like complete idiots. I mean, before they even went to the ring, you're like, why are you trusting this, her after all these weeks of everything that's been going on? You're just either you're double crossing Paige and then it vindicates it. Otherwise, you look like complete morons.
And Raj, like, that's the thing. Like, that's why I've said on here a couple of times, you've got to protect every character. And I always put myself in that situation. And, I produced thousands of backstage pre-tapes. And if I'm the producer, and I don't know who it is, it could be Vince for all we know. I don't know. It doesn't matter. But if I'm the producer and I'm watching that, I'm standing there saying, my God, do you girls look stupid.
Nobody wants to root for a dumbass.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where my frustration comes, because it's like, how do all of us see that? But yet you have a professional producer, whoever it is, on the spot producing this. How does he not walk away with the same vibe?
Right. I think they feel like just giving the women extra time means that they're entering this world where women are the same in wrestling as men, which in WWE that's not the case. And you can give them all the time in the world, but if you book them to look like idiots in pointless segments, you're going to get what you see now. It's not anything. They always say Ronda Rousey. It's nothing like Ronda Rousey.
I remember watching a Road Warriors DVD a long time ago, or maybe it was a shoot interview, but Road Warrior Animal talked about how important it was for them to not be put in situations where they were made to look like dumbasses, where they had to look street smart, because that's their whole thing, is that they grew up on the streets, and the heels couldn't get one over on them like that. They could maybe cheat them and things like that, but they're not going to out street smart these people, because nobody wants to root for a complete idiot. It's hard for people to have sympathy for somebody who's a complete idiot and does things to themselves. PCB reuniting for this situation was them being dumbasses, and I hated it. Nikki pinned Becky. That certainly didn't make the people on Twitter happy, at least.
This was the 6,000th time they've done this match. But
yeah, too many. And Brie Bella, I'll say one good thing about Brie Bella. If she's going to do those Daniel Bryan kicks, at least she's doing them right now, and at least she did something to get a heel reaction out of it this time instead of a babyface reaction, because it was very counterproductive to do that spot and get people chanting yes when you are a heel. I don't know who allowed it, who kept it going. You have to believe that Daniel Bryan, of all people, has said to her at some point, Brie, if you're a heel, maybe you shouldn't do that. Either way, after the match, Paige turned, and thank God it finally happened, even though it made the babyfaces look like total dumbasses, as I said. Paige is much better as a heel. Vince, what do you think of really the direction that this is going?
Yeah, I just, it's just, like, Rod said it, you said it. We've just seen it like just so many times. I guess the program now is Paige and Charlotte for the title. I mean, that's what I would think. And I mean, I would think that they're going to get Charlotte over, which, I don't know, man. They need to me, I always felt that this was the problem with Paige, in the WWE world, okay? She is only like 22, 23 years old, and she has more talent than they really know what to do with. So my concern has always been, this girl is so young and so good, they're not going to be able to keep her over. They're not, the writers are not going to be able to sustain her talent and her popularity, and I think that's the biggest challenge. So, now if they put her in a program with Charlotte, and Charlotte, goes over and retains, man, I just think they're going to be lost with Paige. I think she's too talented and too young for the writers to sustain that popularity. I think that's going to be the problem.
It's a lot like Randy Orton, who was in the WWE at such an early age and used to get these insane reactions and intrigue in his matches, and he still gets a good pop today and everything, but he's like 34, 35, and it's almost like been there, done that with everything he's done.
Yeah. Well, I think with I will say this with Paige, she was fantastic. I thought in that post-match beatdown, I think that should have been the split, not the other 4 that they've done already. There should have been one. That should have been it. And it would have been a lot more effective. And I think they might be making a mistake by going with Charlotte on top as opposed to Paige, because I think Paige has a lot more natural charisma.
Charlotte's getting really exposed in the ring right now without Sarah Del Rey agenting her matches, it seems like.
Yeah, and I think, I just think Paige, I mean, what are the odds that they might be back together again on SmackDown? I mean, usually you'd say 0%, but with the way this writing team has been, how many times did Adam Rose and the Bunny fight and they still kept showing up together? So it might be like 20% or something when it should be 0.
And we all saw how that angle did not turn out because it got dropped abruptly. This is Yeah, but moving on to the next segment, we had the Undertaker-Brock Lesnar match recapped, and the only reason I brought this up is because Michael Cole, when talking about Brock Lesnar ripping up the ring, says, Brock Lesnar exposes the hard wood, which is a great line from Michael Cole, not knowing what he was doing. But then we had a Del Rio Zeb Coulter promo. I didn't think this promo was very good from Zeb Coulter, and that's very uncharacteristic. He gave this half-hearted, weird explanation of why he and Del Rio were buddies and stuff, because he wanted to make Mexico and America one nation, and I'm sure they could have come up with something better than this. I'm sure he could have personally, but yeah, Del Rio faced Neville, and we had that match. Del Rio won. He was protected. Raj, how did you feel about this?
I don't know. It's like they're doing a kind of a quasi Russo brothers, kind of like disingenuous non-immigrant, I guess. I don't know. Yeah, it's just inconsistent. I mean, they should just make it that he's, Zeb Coulter is compromising his morals in order to manage someone that he thinks can win the world title. I mean, that just, it's two guys that are compromising their morals to work with each other to get to the title, and I think that would work fine. Now they're doing some weird, I don't even know what they're doing. I mean, they're ripping on Neville for being a immigrant, and then I don't know, the U.S. Mexican flag. It was it's like they're doing a reverse Donald Trump, and I don't get what's going on. But that being said, Del Rio looks to be in the best shape I think I've seen him. I don't know if how much of that is his tan. He's like Eva Marie out there, but
now he's not orange. Come on now.
He's getting there. He's got the Hulk Hogan
Marie looks
glow
like Lisa
going.
Simpson out there. Jesus. By the way, I'm going to Halloween as Donald Trump. I hope that I can have a 5-star match with Rosie O'Donnell.
There you go.
Like Raw a few years ago.
But they had but another thing, Del Rio had more trouble with Neville than with Cena last night. So
yeah.
But anyway,
Vince, your feelings about this whole situation, Zeb, Del Rio, the match from a writer perspective.
Yeah, well, one thing too, Sean, I think you're very, very perceptive, and I'll hit on that in a minute. First of all, like I guess I wasn't watching the product when there was some type of a Coulter Del Rio marriage in the past. I never saw that.
Well, it was the rivalry. It was Zeb Coulter basically being a redneck, racist Republican, hating Mexicans. Yeah.
Yeah, I never saw any of that. So with that being said, I mean, when they came out together, yes, I mean, this package just does not look right for me from the get-go. I mean, it just, I hate the package. I mean, I don't know how you put, Dutch, Zeb with Del Rio, who looks like a movie star. I mean, I just don't like the package. But I will say this, Sean, and I think you're dead on. And from a personal level, I was a little concerned. Listen, man, I worked years with Dutch Mantel, and a lot of times with Dutch, it was, me, Jeff Jarrett, and Dutch Mantel. The three of us spent a lot of time together. And I mean, I've seen this guy like at the top of his game where I would just sit back and I mean, the way Dutch's mind would work was incredible, and what made it even more incredible was his mind was that of a genius, and his mouth was able to keep up with it. Yeah. So it was the combination of the two. There were so many times I would sit back in awe, and I'm like, this guy literally is borderline genius the way his mind works. And that promo tonight was not Dutch.
That was scripted. That had to be scripted.
Yeah, it was not him. And the only thing, what I thought right away, and the thing that concerned me the most, Sean, is, my mind right away went to his health. I mean, I really hope the guy is okay, because it was like you said, he was so, subdued. And I mean, that was not Dutch. So, hopefully it was scripted, and, that was the problem, because I just hope physically that, he's okay and he was ready to come back to work.
Yeah, I generally think that Zeb Coulter, Dutch Mantel, is one of the best promos in wrestling, especially during the program that you didn't see where he was managing Jack Swagger and against Del Rio and Ricardo. And even though I didn't like this promo, and I don't know what to make of the marriage. It's better than Ricardo and Del Rio because that was just so stale. But back when they had this and it was a hot feud, Swagger and Zeb Coulter just ripped Del Rio and Ricardo to shreds. Ricardo and Del Rio had no chance. So I hope they can turn this into a positive. I mean, I like that Zeb Coulter comes out there on a scooter. I think that's pretty damn funny, but you've got two really talented guys, and if you could find a way to make them mesh well and make it make sense, I think it could be really good. Next up, we had basically what we would call a consolation match, as all the winners were in a World Heavyweight title tournament. All the losers faced off against each other in a 6-man tag. We had Sheamus, King Barrett, and Rusev defeating the Dudley Boys and Ryback when Ryback and Devon go outside and get a table, and again look like complete idiots because they just left their buddy in there to get beat up by 3 people. King Barrett scored the roll-up. Raj, we've got these 3 guys, Sheamus, Rusev, Barrett, all of which have been at the top of the card at some point. Now they are paired up. Do you think this is going to help them?
No. And the Dudleys, I don't know what they did, but I mean, they are being, marginalized something fierce. I mean, getting pinned by Barrett, that's pretty bad. Things aren't looking good when that's happening.
The only way they could be worse is if they got pinned by Barrett while he was Intercontinental Champion, because he never pinned anybody when he was Intercontinental Champion.
Right. If they lose the Ascension on SmackDown, you know that they did something to screw up royally. But nothing stuff. I mean, they marginalized Rusev. It's too bad because Rusev and King Barrett both, I think, are really talented guys, and here they are.
I think the Dudleys are just there to have another name on the live events, really, just to maybe help out a little bit there. Vince Russo, do you see any of these 6 guys ever breaking out and recovering?
Well, there's a couple things here, guys, that I got to be honest with you. During this match, like in my office, the television's to my back and my monitor is in front of me. I did not turn around once for this match. And quite frankly, that's not my fault. Give me one reason why I cared about this match and had to watch this match. This is almost like, you go to a baseball game and all of a sudden the score's 5-0 and I'm going to go get a hot dog now because I know I'm going to be in the concession stand line for 15 minutes and I don't care. That's kind of what it was. So that's on them. That's not on me. But a couple things here very confusing to me, guys. Listen, I'm fairly tight with Bubba, and he's one of the few that I still speak to that's actually employed in the WWE by now, and there's no question about it. They were brought in to get the other tag teams over and to build the tag team division, no doubt about it. That's first of all, that's what they wanted to do. And second of all, that's what they were told they were being hired to do. That's why, last week when we had the predictions, I'm like, New Day's going to go over because the Dudleys are there to get the tag team division over. Well, if that's the case, why is Bubba losing to Barrett in a 6-man? It totally takes away from what they're supposed to be there for, and it hurts them. The only thing, and I don't even know if you can salvage this, but 6 months ago, whatever the case was, I mean, I was calling for Lana when her and Rusev were together, and Rusev was really strong, for her to almost put together like a United Nations. And I mean, you've got that with Barrett, Rusev, and the Sheamus. It's there. And I mean, you could make them a United Nation under Lana, but there's been so much damage done to those guys. And with the ability of the writers, it would really be hard at this point to make it believable because I think there's a lot of battle scars, and I don't think people are just going to forget them. But yeah, man, they've got 6 guys here now that sort of like just thrown in the middle, and nobody's getting over.
They're just there to fill time right now.
Yeah. Next up, we had a Bray Wyatt promo, and we had Michael Cole saying, "Why did they do it? Why did they do it?" Which seems to be what happens the night after every pay-per-view whenever the Wyatts start a new feud. They did it because they're crazy. That's why. They don't need a reason why. They're just crazy, bearded people. Crazy for me to think that The Undertaker's been around for 25 years. That makes me feel very old. I don't know about you guys. This promo was just fine, but I kind of tune out when Bray Wyatt talks now. I mean, even no matter what the promo says, and he delivers it great, but he delivers it the same way every single time. We had Kane come out and get beat up and taken to the back. Raj, how did you feel about this? And obviously, we've got a Kane-Undertaker connection again.
Yeah, I'm the same way. Bray, when he starts talking about, and I know Vince, I know you're a fan of Bray's, but his promos has just kind of been the same for a while, and so it's like after a couple minutes, I tune out and just kind of waiting for certain catch things.
What's the score of the football game? That's what I think when he talks.
Yeah, and ultimately, I don't know. Did he explain why they're feuding with Taker again? Because now we're back in March. It's like the same promos. It was very, very deja vu-ish. But yeah, I mean it was what it was. Kane coming out was kind of cool. Now they got that connection back, and that's your. I don't know if they're going to do a 4-on-4 or if they do a tag match or a 2-on-4, but I think it's clear where they're headed.
Vince, how did you feel about all this?
Man, Sean, I was really concerned about this because let's face it, Rod said it. Bray's my boy. I listen. I was so thrilled to see Mike Rotundo at a convention a couple of weeks ago, so I could go up to Mike Rotundo and put his kid over. Yeah, I didn't even put him over. I put his kid over. But this is what scares the heck out of me, man. When Bray's sitting there cutting that promo, and you're getting the what, I'm feeling like Bray has lost all credibility. That's what I'm feeling like, and that's the booking. He's coming off of another loss last night. Great they took Taker away, but man, this is supposed to be like a real scary backwoods character. And when you're making his promo a comedy act with what, and there's no fear and there's no respect and there's nothing, man, I'm scared to death. They've killed his credibility. Now, if I'm in that spot, what I'm doing is you got to put him back in the back, pre-tape what he's saying, and don't play it over the crowd noise. Just go to a pre-tape, silence. It's just Bray cutting his promo. They need to put a Band-Aid on some things here. Another thing I didn't like, and it's going along the same lines of the credibility. Well, I don't like the fact that Kane had to beat up 3 guys and then be left alone one-on-one in the ring with Bray. After 17 years or 15 years, whatever it is, are we really trying to get Kane over at the expense of, 3 younger guys on the roster? The one guy, they may all be bigger, than Kane. I mean, let's face it. But the fact that Kane, who's been on the roster for at least 15 years, beat up the 3 of them and tossed the 3 of them out of the ring, it's like, my God, who are we trying to get over here? And that goes right back to me saying, the credibility factor. I don't know. It almost seems like they're not trying to get the Wyatt family over. I mean, I love that they took Taker yesterday. That's great. They did something. They took Kane tonight. That's great. They did something. But here's my concern. You got Taker and Kane now. if you don't put the Wyatts over in whatever this angle is, and you wind up putting two guys on the roster over that have been there for 20 years, I don't even know what's the point of having the Wyatts at that point.
Yeah, the one thing I noticed was they had Kane go face-to-face with Braun Strowman, and last night Kane got his ass kicked by a guy that was half the size of Braun Strowman.
Right.
I used to defend Bray Wyatt losing a lot. I used to. The reason for that is that Bray Wyatt as a character probably wouldn't give a damn if he won or lost because he's crazy. Now I don't defend it anymore because he is unique in that he is passable as a supernatural character in 2015, and that is not easy to do. Now, if the monster under your bed is a monster under your bed that you could kick the hell out of, you wouldn't be scared of him.
Right.
You're not scared of a monster under your bed if you know the second that he comes out, you can kick his ass. And the WWE fans are being told everybody can kick Bray Wyatt's ass. You don't need to be scared of him. It's just, it's okay for him to lose at times because he doesn't care if he wins or loses, but he has to win sometime. I don't understand it.
And sure, not only that, even if he doesn't win, at least do some damage. You know, I mean, yeah, he gets beat 1, 2, 3. He doesn't care, but at least do some damage. But you hit it head on. Why are we afraid of this guy?
Yeah. Raj, how'd you feel about all this?
It's like I said, I thought the promo kind of went nowhere, and it just seemed deja vu-ish, and you know where it's headed, and we'll see it play out.
I'm interested to see if they pick up 2 more partners, or Kane and Undertaker, or if it's just them. So I guess we'll find that out.
I think it's the perfect spot. I mean, I don't know if he would do it, to be honest with you, because of what happened that shouldn't have happened in that last match. But I wouldn't be surprised if they may be using this as a spot to bring Sting back at Survivor Series.
Yeah, if he could go, that would be really cool. And it would be I would say possibly an opportunity for Sting to win a match too, but I don't know how that would work. Next up, we had Dolph Ziggler versus Big E in a match that probably should have happened 2 years ago when they split up. Not a lot to talk about in this match. Big E, a lot of people were picking Big E because they thought that Tyler Breeze, who was at ringside, would kind of screw Ziggler over. This did get Breeze's face on Raw, which was kind of cool. But Dolph Ziggler won. Pretty good match. Moved on to the main event. Not really anything to talk about in that match.
I will say this. I do think New Day, it kind of sticks out how much they're missing without Xavier Woods there.
Oh, yeah.
It's just not the same with Kofi doing the cheerleading. And I'll say with the whole Tyler Breeze thing, when he came out and going to the ring and everything, all I could think about was Adam Rose. It seemed like it's a gimmick that worked in NXT, but I don't see this working on the main roster. And I think he'll have to drop some of that Zoolander-ish stuff. Otherwise he'll end up at that Fandango level.
Yeah, I think I said that on the podcast maybe a couple months ago, that if Tyler Breeze came up, he would probably be wrestling Fandango and Adam Rose on Superstars. I would be watching him on Friday nights instead of Monday nights. Next up, we had the Titus O'Neil cancer segment where he came out and promoted Susan G. Komen and all of that. A feel-good moment for Raw. Next, we saw The Miz playing WWE 2K16 in an obvious pre-tape, and Stone Cold Steve Austin made an appearance. And I don't care if it's a pre-tape. You will not hear me complain when Stone Cold Steve Austin shows up on Raw.
Yeah, I think that was taped last night. But yeah, it's a cool way to plug the game.
I think they should use pre-tapes for people like that more often. I always thought that if Brock Lesnar was around, you should probably tape some stuff backstage with him while you have him, things like that. Is that something, there weren't as many part-time guys when you were there, Vince, but, do you think they could make better use of their part-time guys or names like Steve Austin while they have them?
Oh, absolutely. No, that was a trick. Listen, because of the budget we were on at TNA, that was a trick we had to use at TNA when, we couldn't, we couldn't afford to have guys there for more than one day. So, when we had them there, I mean, shoot, sometimes if we had Sting there or something like that, we would shoot stuff for 4 weeks because we just couldn't afford it. So absolutely, man, when they have those guys, especially like a Lesnar, I mean, you talked about the explanation why Brock wasn't in that match. Why not shoot that last night? Why not have some with Heyman and Brock? I mean, actually, it would have made sense because he was split open pretty good at the end of the night. It would have made sense that he wasn't cleared to wrestle tonight. But, definitely when you have those guys, utilize them.
Next up was the main event, and this match, and I can't
Can I interrupt you, Sean, for a second?
Go ahead.
And I'm going to say something very controversial.
Uh-oh.
But you didn't ask me, so I got to pitch in because you went right over my turn with the Dolph thing and with the
go ahead.
breast cancer gimmick. I got to say this because it's really bothering me. And I've been noticing this like for a long time. And I'm just going to say it because, listen, I'm a firm believer, and I'm not going to get into this, but, I am a Christian, and I'm a firm believer that when your intentions are genuine to help people, you don't promote it and plaster it for the entire world to see, to let them know you're doing it. When you're sincerely want to help somebody, you're supposed to do it in private. You're not supposed to tell anybody. You're supposed to do it for all the right reasons. And I got to tell you, I was very annoyed last week, and I don't know if you noticed this, but it was a bit subliminal. Last week they had the Susan Coleman package. It was a package last week, okay? They didn't do what they did tonight. But throughout this package, there had to be at least 4 or 5 shots of Stephanie McMahon in the package. And as soon as I saw that, and having worked there, okay, I get it. Stephanie's the philanthropist. I think I said that the right way. I have trouble saying
philanthropist.
That. Philanthropist. Okay, I understand all that. But to me, you put a package together with these women that fought breast cancer and, my gosh, I can't even imagine what these women go through. And there was Stephanie's face showing up every few minutes. And there they were again tonight. Titus in the front cut a beautiful promo. Great guy to pick for that spot. But who's right behind him? Stephanie McMahon. And the entire promo you see in Stephanie McMahon, they did the same thing with the Connor's Cure, okay? And I just got to tell you, I just have a real issue with this because if you want to help them, that is great. I stand up and I applaud the WWE. I really do. But if you're doing it for, selfish reasons to show the world, oh, look at what we do. Man, I'm just telling you, I just have a real problem with that. And listen, it's a known thing in wrestling. Okay, the wrestlers always go in front. You always play backseat to the wrestlers. That goes without saying. That's a rule of thumb in the wrestling business. You never put yourself over a wrestler. And who's standing right there with all the wrestlers in the back? Stephanie and Hunter, and that's all you saw. And I just got to tell you, listen, it's a great cause, and we should all jump on board. And I support every one of these causes a 1,000,000%. But man, I just hope the WWE is doing this for all the right reasons.
Well, it's funny when you say that, and you're absolutely right. It's just they've been doing it for so long, I don't even notice it anymore.
Yeah, and Stephanie she had that controversial tweet earlier in the year where she said philanthropy is the future of public relations or something like that, and she got a lot of heat from that. And Susan G. Komen isn't. There are a lot of issues with that in its own, and about how much they actually give to cancer research and how much goes to their executives and things like that. But yeah, I think it should be. I think that the pink rope is more than enough. I think the way the NFL handles it's really nice. They have the gloves and all that stuff, but they don't shove it down your throat like, look what we're doing.
Yeah, well, I think encouraging people to donate, you do kind of have to do some of that stuff, as far as video packages and stuff. But yes, when you're including Stephanie all the time.
It just bothers me because, like you said, Sean, you said the NFL. I'm a big baseball fan. And, MLB, they have that game every year. The guys use pink bats. They wear the pink wristbands. They wear pink spikes, whatever they want to wear. But, there isn't, you don't have name any ball player. There isn't one guy tied to it that you're seeing over and over and over and over again.
Right, it'd be like Roger Goodell and all the.
Exactly. It just rubs me the wrong way. So I just had to say that.
Well, moving
Roger,
on.
am I going to lose my job now because I said that?
No, I think. Like I said, I agree. I mean, that I used to feel dirty, with a lot of those packages back in the day. But I think I'm just so used to it that it's you become desensitized.
Yeah. I'm sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
Moving on to the main event, which I can't stress enough.
Wait, real quick, Vince, did you have something on the Ziggler match or?
Yeah, the only thing with the Ziggler match is, again, I mean, to me it was predictable because I know what they were looking to do was we want to have the best wrestling match at the end of the night. So, putting Ziggler over, it's going to be the best match. So I think that was predictable. But the thing I didn't like, and you guys hit upon it a little bit, I mean, why are you going to put Tyler Breeze out there if he isn't going to do anything?
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? They rope off the area, this, that, and the other thing. You could have done the same thing by putting him on the top of the stage and let him watch the match from a distance, but putting him right there and not having him do anything, to me, it just kind of defeated the purpose.
Yeah, I think it was just to get his face on Raw, but we'll finally move on to the main event. We have a few minutes left. We have about 8 minutes left. I can't express enough how much this match just kicked ass. It was great. It was a fantastic match. Kevin Owens, Roman Reigns, who else was in this match? I'm so excited. Dolph Ziggler, Alberto Del Rio. This was just fantastic, all of it. I loved the face-to-face with Roman Reigns and Kevin Owens at the end when the crowd was great too. They added a lot to it. Only thing I didn't like is how much they telegraphed Reigns and Rollins at the beginning of the show, as you all had mentioned. But when Roman Reigns and Kevin Owens were going face-to-face in the ring, it felt like a big moment. It felt like a cool moment. An awesome match, in my opinion. Roman Reigns wins in dramatic fashion. He's going to face Seth Rollins, who... I looked up a couple stats on Seth Rollins. He has the most title defenses of anybody since CM Punk, and has the fifth. By Survivor Series, he'll have the fifth longest WWE title reign in the last 20 years, which is kind of impressive. I have a bold prediction for their match. I think that Sheamus may try to cash in during their match. He might get speared, and Rollins might pin him, which kind of extends the Rollins Reigns thing to TLC, and then right after that, you're into Royal Rumble season. Vince, as a writer and what you do, how did you feel about this main event segment? Reigns getting the title shot, all of that.
Well, Sean, I agree with you 1,000%. And listen, I'm not a match guy. I mean, I'm just not. That's not how I'm trained. But the match was off the charts. It was a great match. It was an incredible match. And, the rule of thumb always is, like, the last thing they're going to remember is the last thing they see. So, like, to me, I'm not saying any of the matches were bad because they weren't. They were all very good matches, but they were all very predictable. But the last thing they're going to remember is this match, which is off the charts. Listen, I'm glad Reigns is back where he initially was supposed to be. But I have to ask you guys something. Here's a little bit of a concern of mine, and I want to see how you guys feel about this. This was a San Diego crowd. And listen, San Diego, next to where I live, because, pot's illegal here in Colorado, San Diego is the most laid back people maybe in the entire country. So, they were with Reigns. I mean, there's no question about that. The people were with Reigns. But I got to ask you guys, again, if we're in Philly, if we're in New York, if we're in Jersey, if we're in Chicago, is it going to be that same response for Roman Reigns? And all of a sudden now, when they go to the next venue and Reigns has his next big match and the response isn't the same, are we shifting it into another gear again?
I think they're all in on Reigns.
They really have no other choice right now. I mean, I think that's the one thing that really struck me. I thought it was a great match too, but one thing that really struck me watching that is these are their house show guys right now. This is their top stars that are going to be working the live events, until Cena gets back and Ambrose. These are basically their top guys, and Roman Reigns was really the only plausible winner. No one else is, getting the title shot at the next pay-per-view. So it's like they're jumping to Reigns because they have no other options. Because really, I mean, you would think that they'd be waiting, to have Reigns have this big moment at WrestleMania. And I don't know if they'll jump the gun, have him win the title now, or if they drag it out until WrestleMania. But it definitely felt like they just really don't have any other choice right now.
Yeah, there's no Orton, there's no Cena, there's no Daniel Bryan, there's no Lesnar for right now. Yeah, they
haven't created anyone else. I mean,
they haven't created anyone else. Dean Ambrose didn't wrestle last night. He didn't wrestle tonight. He was in a couple of backstage. I wonder how pissed off Dean Ambrose is even to have flown in for the last two nights. He did nothing. There was nothing.
I got to tell you, Sean, I was thinking the same thing. I'm wondering how pissed off he is that they put Alberto Del Rio in that spot when all of us last week talked about he would have been a great choice in that Cena spot. If he would have won the title, that would have certainly elevated him. I wonder how he feels about, Del Rio getting that. And, like you said, okay, the pay-per-view and the first Raw, he's sitting on the bench.
Yeah, I would like to think that they had something planned for him, because and I saw it just based on tonight, but if they didn't have that tournament tonight and had these guys pull double duty, man, the depth of that roster was going to be really exposed, as I mentioned, without Lesnar, Cena, Orton, Daniel Bryan they haven't had for a long time. There's no Undertaker on this show. It's worrisome, and Xavier Woods wasn't there. That hurt too. But yeah, it's kind of and then you have several mid-card acts kind of bunched together with Rusev, Barrett, and Sheamus. So it's interesting, and like I said, there are several acts that have to get programs that we still don't know what's going to happen with. But Dean Ambrose a year ago looked like he was ready to be one of the next guys, one of the next big superstars. Raj, I know you've said that they really need to push Dean Ambrose with the absence of Cena and Orton.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what they're waiting for. I don't know if that's the plan, is to have Reigns win and then go with Ambrose. And because that promo that they did earlier, under most circumstances, I tweeted this out. That looks like the kind of promo you do when you have someone turning on someone.
Yeah.
And they've done
those for months.
Yeah, they've been doing them. So, yeah, I mean, I think they'll probably have Reigns win the title soon and then go on to Ambrose after that. But
another possibility, Raj, I think they can use Ambrose as an insurance policy, and I think that would be the smart way to do it. In other words, what I'm saying is this: continue to build Rollins as the heel, continue to put Reigns as the baby face. But if there's any doubt whatsoever in management's mind about Reigns, you use Ambrose as that insurance policy where just when it looks like Reigns is about to beat Rollins and Reigns is about to overcome everything and win the championship, now Dean Ambrose screws him. Because now at that point, now you really have sympathy on Reigns. Now it's kind of like, what the frig does this guy have to go through? And then maybe by the time you get to WrestleMania, he's there. So I wouldn't be surprised if they're going to use Ambrose as that insurance policy to make sure they get Reigns over as a babyface.
I could see that.
Yeah, and that would lead into that big triple threat program. Well, we're running out of time, guys, but I thought, all in all, in ring, this was a fantastic Raw. Outside of the ring, so-so. But that's a lot more, saying a lot more than recent Raws. Vince, where can they follow you on Twitter?
Capital T, capital H, capital E, capital V, INCE, capital RUSSO. And also during the week, you can follow me at VinceRussoBrand.com.
Raj?
Raj Giri 303.
Also, of course, follow us at Wrestling Inc. And guys, follow me on Twitter at Sean Ross Sapp. I want to thank you all for listening, and thank you again to our readers who came and said hi to me at an MMA event I was at this weekend. I really appreciate the support. Subscribe, all that good stuff. Catch you guys later.